something like 75% of the Israeli public is satisfied with the way its government behaved regarding the flotilla. Yes, and it said that the numbers change only slightly if they included the Palestinian Israelis in the poll. That is about the most depressing number I've heard in a long time. The international condemnation of the government's behavior has not eroded at all Israel's support for its government. I just don't get it. As for what we can do, my whole point and the way I wanted to begin my presentation is that I want to do what works. I think that this broad-based, and let me just say it, I don't want to insult anybody, but check the BDS movement website. I think it is just sloppy. I think it's sloppy, I think it's not careful, I think it's not strategic. I would like us to do things that will work in order to try to end the occupation. Noam Chomsky said it, and I'm not sure how popular he is in this room, but his point is, and I think he's right, that what we do as Americans is try to lobby our government. We can not buy General Electric light bulbs for the next 35 years, and it's not going to make a difference. But if we're all organized, J Street, for example, and join in the effort to lobby our government, I think that's all we can do. And you know what? Maybe that's not going to work. Maybe things are going to keep getting worse and worse and worse until young American Jews, my children, my grandchildren, really don't give a damn. And I fear that's where it's going. But I'm not ready to give up, and I want to do things that work. And I think that lobbying our government is the one thing that has some chance of working. I'm not too popular, I'm afraid.
I wanted, Hannah, you maybe to respond directly to some of the charges that have been leveled against the BDS movement, that it is unfairly targeting Israel, that it is singling out Israel for pariah status, that it's destructive, that it's counterproductive, that it may even provoke further backlash.
So first, a response to singling out Israel, which actually neither one of you specifically said that.
Kathleen,
we're not making stupid arguments.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah. So. Not necessarily the critics at this table, the critics
in general, and I think it's, and I'll just say it very briefly.
And those are all comments that I pulled from public letters that have come from Jewish organizations in recent months criticizing actual divestment campaigns. And Kathleen was a model of brief answering, but I do want everyone to follow her model on the panel.
It is the singling out Israel argument is a very frequent one. And there are many responses, but one is, we're not singling out Israel. Our government is singling out Israel in the amount of aid that we give to Israel every single day, and we're responding to that. That's one argument. Another is again, as Kathleen says, we do what works. Now we apparently have different ideas of what works, but we do what works, and so it's not about boycott. Again, it's a tool, it's not a dogma. What that means is we do it when it works. It doesn't mean we boycott everything bad, because we would be boycotting many countries and many companies, maybe most. But it's about a call from Palestine and following that call, and it's about doing what might work. And Israel, despite its policies sometimes indicating otherwise, is actually vulnerable to public opinion. And that's actually a response I wanted to say to some of what Kathleen was saying about, for example, that the UC Berkeley campaign was ill-advised because it focuses on General Electric, and what difference is that going to make to General Electric? Well, right now, economically, none. And for me, it's not actually about the economics of it. In this case, and in that stage of the movement, it's actually about talking about Israel as an apartheid state, talking about the policies of the Israeli government, and exposing those. So BDS as a tool of education. And it's more, just like in South Africa, at first, it's more about the public image than it is about the economics, though the economics are also important. And Israel is being affected economically by the Palestinian boycott now, by some European contracts being canceled. Not so much in the US yet. We're not there yet, where we're economically affecting Israel very much. But that's not necessarily the point right now either. And I actually want to agree with you on some things. You said that, you know, you look at BDS websites and there are hundreds of products. I think that's bad strategy. And I work with a group, Adela New York. We have a 10-product boycott flyer. We have it here, it's available. And of those products, some of them have actual campaigns against them, and that's the way to go, obviously. It is a broad call, like you said, but it's effective when there are specific campaigns. So for example, there's an Ahava campaign, a campaign against Ahava, led by Code Pink in this country. Ahava takes minerals from the occupied Dead Sea, and from, you know, Palestinian land. So those kinds of things, those are the campaigns that we're talking about. Okay. And I also just want to say that where I disagree, I don't think lobbying necessarily works right now. I don't think it's a bad idea to also focus on government. We haven't really seen results from it, and we have, in a very short time, in just a few years, really seen a lot of results with the BDS movement already.
Okay.
I mean, I have a number of responses to the academic boycott too, but should we not?
Well, yeah, if people want to follow up on that, we can. Okay. And just, JJ, both you and Kathleen raised the point that you saw BDS tactics as ineffective. So I guess the question is, if you think they're ineffective, does that mean that there's a reason to oppose that movement going on in a parallel track? If Kathleen, you support lobbying as a strategy, if your main argument against BDS is that it's ineffective, is it really either or can different parts of the movement be focusing on different tactics and let 100 flowers bloom?
Well, I have to say, being here has been a bit of an education, because if the goal is to unmake Israel as a Jewish state and remove its ethnic component, then BDS is probably a pretty good idea. It will result in ongoing conflict. It will make, there's already an exodus of intellectuals from Israel. There is a rapid growth in religious fundamentalism. And it's the percentage of the population that is what we call black hat or ultra-Orthodox, doesn't go in the army, doesn't favor working for a living, lives on welfare, and studies Torah all day. That's growing. And secular Israelis, as I say, they're Jewish, but they're secular, they're not Jewish by religion, are looking for jobs here. They're buying apartments in Poland. Poland offers to let victims of the Holocaust there or their descendants reclaim Polish citizenship. People line up outside the Polish consulate. You can make life miserable in Israel and essentially implode it from within. And as Kadura Faras said, another 100 years of misery for all sides, particularly for the Palestinians, and you will no longer have a Jewish state, if that's your idea of a good time. If you want to have peace between Israel, the Jewish state of Israel, and the Palestinian state, as the PLO endorses, as the Israeli government used to endorse, as most of the world community endorses, then the way to go is not to scare the shit out of the Israelis. It's to organize people to assure both sides that they will get what they want and that will end it. That if the Palestinians, if the Israelis pull out of the West Bank and allow an independent Palestinian state with full sovereign rights in a viable territory, that'll be the end of the conflict. To say to them, we're going to continue until Israel is no longer a Jewish state, you're not contributing to peace. You're contributing to a long process of disintegration. It gives into hate if that's what you want.
Thanks, JJ and Jonathan. We'll just get one more comment from you and then we'll open it up. I mean, you can respond to anything that you feel you urgently need to, but I did want to ask you at one point, Kathleen had talked about the BDS movement having a goal not of just ending the occupation, but of punishing Israel for Israel's existence. And as an Israeli, I was hoping you'd respond a bit to that and just take a couple minutes.
Okay. First of all, I think it's good to punish a colonial power that is engaging in a daily practice of war crime. And the punishment is not against The punishment is not against, Yossi Cohen from Bat Yam.